camaraderie that defines our athletes. Tonight, we celebrate a new group of sports heroes and take pride in knowing that we come from a province whose geographical size does not dictate the output of its talent.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pride that we introduce to you your Master of Ceremonies for this evening. This is Bruce Rainey's 17th year as our Master of Ceremonies. Bruce is the host of the CBC Supper Hour program on Prince Edward Island. He's the voice of CBC Sports in Atlantic Canada. He's a national play-by-play broadcaster for CBC, and Bruce will be in Rio in 2016 doing play-by-play of men's and women's basketball and men's and women's tennis. Ladies and gentlemen, Bruce Rainey.
Thank you, folks. All right, here we are again. And by the way, I want to welcome to this beautiful hall tonight the entire town of New Waterford. There is not a single breathing soul in New Waterford tonight. They're all right here. I ask you to turn your attention to the back of the room as we welcome the outstanding class of 2015 to the Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame. We'll do this in alphabetical order to kick things off tonight. Would Mr. Lowell Cormier come forward, please? Lowell, enjoy the video. Take a look.
We're given our names by our parents when we were born, but our friends and our teammates give us our nicknames. You could have 5 guys meet Lowell in one night and call him 5 different things. He goes by Gussie, or Gus, or Crow, or Crowbar, or Crowbarski, or Crowby. Madame Thibault, I'm not too sure about that one. Leo, anybody at home knows Leo. And of course, the one he calls himself is the Master.
Stories about Lowell, how long do you have? Everyone has a Lowell story.
Lowell was a terrible basketball coach. When I played from the 3 years, we were 9 wins and 105 losses, I believe. And most of those 9 wins were actually when Lowell wasn't on the bench. He was either suspended or was unable to coach because of some sort of violation.
Lowell Cormier was a baseball and basketball coach for almost 50 years. He was the founder, organizer, and president of the Minor Basketball and Baseball Associations in New Waterford. He founded the New Waterford Wellness Society, and he was an associate coach for the CBU Men's AUS Championship basketball team in 2010.
Lowell's a big thinker, and he didn't have the small town mindset of, well, we can't do that because it's in New Waterford, or we can't do that because it's in Cape Breton.
So the town of New Waterford gave Lowell a street name, Lowell Cormier Avenue. It is a great honor, but I think they picked a particular street for Lowell based on Lowell's basketball career. The street only goes one way. Based upon Lowell's coaching career, the street is a dead end. And based upon Lowell as a person, the street is run down, terribly underdeveloped, and has a horrible septic problem. It's going to be hard for us to be talking sincerely about him. That's going to be a tough part.
Lowell's signature can be seen across the town New Waterford with all the infrastructure he has built for sport.
Lowell is a very high energy guy. He's a really unique person in the sense that he is so passionate about anything that he decides to do. You know, like the Coal Bowl, for example, like getting turf fields in New Waterford, like fixing up baseball diamonds and playgrounds and all those type of things. So he inspired kids to be involved and to give back to sport and the community.
Having kids playing in Mount Carmel School and having that gym open basically 24/7, to his interest in soccer and helping getting the soccer fields with a world-class stadium there, the tennis courts and helping out and be involved with there. And then the area that I think he's probably first started with was baseball and the baseball fields and the countless hours spent ensuring that those baseball fields were top class and that great competition would come into town. Lowell is a once-in-a-lifetime kind of guy. He really is, and the town has benefited from it greatly.
Lowell is a founding member of the Coal Bowl in New Waterford, Cape Breton. The tournament features high school basketball teams from across the country who compete in a week-long tournament with an emphasis on learning about the rich coal mining history of the area.
One of Lowell's skills is getting people together, having a crazy, audacious goal, and achieving that goal. And for the Coal Bowl, I was lucky enough to play in the first one, and it's the closest I'll ever get to the Olympics or whatever. It was an incredible event with fanfare and bands and opening ceremonies, and truly was amazing. And I was lucky enough to come back as a coach many, many years later and brought a team of very big, tough inner-city guys from Toronto to the Coal Bowl. And those guys left in tears. They left in tears because they were moved and touched so much, not just by the event itself, but by the people and the care and the level of competition. It was truly, it is truly a magical event, and I've gone to all over this country and even in the States, and I've met people who've actually either played in the Coal Bowl or heard of it. It's an incredible tournament.
We look at Lowell now and we call him one of the world's oldest teenagers because he seems to have the energy of still someone who is in his teens.
Lowell is into community, family, education, and sport. I always said if Lowell was up in Bay Street, he'd be a wide tie with a big league suit on. But lucky for New Waterford, he's pretty big league down there.
To present the plaque, a longtime friend, although that might be in question right now, Dave McKinnon. Dave, you come on forward. And for the pin, a man who helped Lowell tear apart New Waterford as youngsters, then was by his side as he developed sport and facilities in their hometown, Ambrose Whites. I know.
First thing he's ever won, right here.
Sub. In the interest of fairness and balance, how would you describe Dave McKinnon as a player?
David was tall. I thought I had a gold mine when I started coaching, because when I grew up in New Waterford, a lot of families were into sports, and the McClellans were awesome, the Cormiers weren't bad, and the Hutchisons were pretty good. And then when I started coaching at Beck, Dan Willie McKinnon's about 6'1", a great baseball player, a great athlete, and his wife Nancy's about 6'1". I said, "Oh, this could be good." So the first guy that came out of that family was David at 6'8". His first season, this is a true story. In grade 10, he scored 1 point. And I used to call him Bud, Big Useless David.
I would say we're even. Wow. Listen, all of New Waterford's here for you tonight, which is really cool. Tell us about why sport has been such a huge part of your life.
Well, I mean, you grow up in New Waterford. In my era, everything happened in the neighborhoods. We were confined to our neighborhoods, and that's all we ever did was play sport, chase a ball around, or kick cans around, or anything like that. And my athletic abilities and my instincts come from my father, and my personality is more like my mother's. And my love of referees comes from my mother, too.
I've heard you guys are tight. You're really tight. I want to ask you about the Cole Bowl because I think that's the best. I've done a couple of stories on it, big long ones. That's the best high school basketball tournament, I think, in the country. And the reason is that at the very outset, you guys decided to make that not just athletic, but educational and really cultural. How did that come to be?
Well, it's an interesting story because it's been refreshed in my mind the last while back because of certain interviews I had to do because of this. And the Cole Bowl was proposed in the parking lot to me after a practice by Russell McNeil, who was one of the best basketball players ever committed to Waterford and played at St. FX. And he was thought that we could do something like that. So then when you look at that, and that's a big dream, and we never ever thought it would be like that. And then you get a guy. See, there's a disclaimer on the Cole Bowl because I had probably a major part to play on the Cole Bowl, but the Cole Bowl is a community event, and it's not about one man or two men or three men. It's about the leadership and the passion in the community for basketball and coal mining, and it was our chance to show the rest of the country just what New Waterford was about, the hospitality and all that. But anyhow, as we started to go, our first principal was Brian McDonald. He was a visionary. He knew what this would do. He took it to a concept that we couldn't believe. And so when we first started, we just figured we'd have 400 or 500 people in the gym. And the first year we sold out before the tournament started. There was 1,800 people in the gym, and you couldn't get in. There was lineups wanting to get in. And now our toughest job is to keep teams that once they come, they keep wanting to come back. So that's a good testament to the tournament.
It's the best. It's the absolute best, yeah. What's it like in a small town? It's neat to be able to really make a difference, and clearly we've seen what you had a role in building there. What does that give back to you as a builder?
Well, it's an accomplishment to be able to have surrounded yourself with all these kids that you coached. They were kids then, but you could see there's a lot of characters. We had a lot of characters involved, and so when you drive through a community and you see that you were able to give back to your community and create help, but everything I ever did was with another group of people. No one person just decides they're going to put this field here or that ball hockey rink there or this tournament there. It was always with a group of people, and I guess I could get them together, and I think they had confidence in me, and I guess that's why we have a lot of our facilities. But in reality, my best friend, Gary McDonald, was the recreation director, and he passed away when he was only 47 years old, and he started building facilities. I wasn't into building facilities. I was into building teams and programs, and it was only after hanging with him and watching his passion for developing the facilities in Waterford that after he passed away, it was in the back of my mind, when I get out of coaching, I'm going to do some of this. And so that's basically what happened.
So how did he score one? Was it just 1 for 2 from the foul line, or?
It was a 1 for 2, and his uncle was refereeing.
Raymond, I'm sure you'll agree, he wins on points. Absolutely. Thank you. All right, buddy. See you. Good stuff. Nicely done. Okay, buddy. All right.